Disclaimer. This podcast is not nor does not constitute as providing medical advice or professional services. The information provided should not be used for diagnosing or treating health problems or disease. Those seeking personal medical advice should consult with a licensed physician, and as always, please seek the advice of your doctor or other qualified health provider regarding a medical condition. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call 911 or go to the nearest emergency room immediately. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
My name is Rachael.
My name is Marleigh.
And I'm Ciara.
And my head hurts.
Episode 1 of My Head Hurts, an introduction to us and the brain.
My name's Rachael. I'm 16, going into my junior year, and I'm fascinated about the brain because I took a psychology class and I found it very interesting. And my one fun fact is that my favorite color is orange.
Hi, I'm Marleigh. I am 17 years old. I am going to be a senior in high school. And I'm fascinated about the brain because I have to see a neurologist. And she's pretty cool. But also, I've grown up around my mom being like a nurse. And so anything medical has always been fascinating to me. And my fun fact is that I have 2 baby goats.
I'm Ciara. I'm 17. I'm going into my senior year. My fun fact is that when I get bored, I start clubs at the school.
And then we join them.
Yeah, and then I'm like, hey, why don't you join? Hey, did you hear about the new club?
It's gonna be so much fun.
Yeah. They're like, didn't you make one 3 months ago? I'm like,
2 weeks ago.
Yeah, actually.
When there's a need for a club,
I make it.
Ciara's the girl to call.
If there's a gap in our education system, I will be the one to fill it personally.
Exactly.
I'm fascinated about the brain because it is the most important organ in probably the whole body. I think that since I tend to ponder on things on a deeper level, I feel like most people do. I just have a special connection with my brain, and I think we'd probably be best friends if it was a human being also. Except for we're probably going to be the same human because the brain is what gives you your personality.
Yeah,
so basically just me 2.0.
Yeah,
but
so
basically I'd be fine.
You just want to clone.
Brain.
Yeah.
We're each other's brain reincarnate.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so what is the brain? Well, despite it only being 3 pounds, it is considered the most important organ in the whole body due to its long list of functions and responsibilities. But before we dive into what the brain does, we kind of have to know what it's composed of and what it looks like. The brain is made of the cerebral hemispheres, known as the 2 halves of the brain. It's a squishy organ with many ridges known as gyri and folds known as sulci. These folds are made to increase surface area so that more of that desired item can fit inside, in this case neurons. As seen in other aspects of life, like the mitochondria, it is also encapsulated by fluid that provides the nutrients and protection known as the cerebrospinal fluid. From the sagittal view, where you can only see one of the cerebral hemispheres, the brain can be divided into the hindbrain, the midbrain, and the forebrain.
The hindbrain consists of the cerebellum, not to be confused with the cerebrum, which controls our balance, the pons, meaning bridge in Latin, and the medulla oblongata, which is where the brain and the spinal cord connect. This controls the signaling to the nervous system throughout the body. The medulla oblongata also is in charge of our reflexes. The hindbrain enacts our involuntary actions.
Yeah, so there's things that your body does without you knowing that you're doing it. I feel like you don't control your heartbeat, so those types of things are you have no idea your body's doing it, and if you really wanted to stop it, you couldn't. It's just gonna keep going.
The midbrain, also called the mesencephalon, consists of the colliculi, the cerebral peduncles, and the tegmentum. Together, the midbrain works to provide motor control, such as balance and driving, autonomic functions, and the sleep cycle to the body. These are also our involuntary actions.
So basically, if you wanted to just pull all-nighters frequently, every single night, your body it wouldn't let you do that. After a certain while, your brain, especially the midbrain, would just be like, no, I think you're going to go to sleep now, and you might just pass out and go to bed.
I think it's interesting how the hindbrain, that's kind of the stuff that you find in any brain. It's kind of seen as the most primitive part of the brain. And so that makes sense that it controls the most important things of being alive, breathing, moving, all that stuff. And then kind of everything else is what makes us human.
Yeah, it's kind of just you being able to move around and kind of interact with the world around you, but not really think about it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. The forebrain mainly consists of the telencephalon, also known as the cerebrum, the thalamus, the hypothalamus, the limbic system, and the pituitary gland. The forebrain enacts all of our voluntary actions.
Yeah, so it's really where we think. It's kind of, every piece adds it up to kind of just make the human who they are.
Yeah, so I'm telling my forebrain to put up some peace signs. we're telling our forebrain to wave at you.
Okay.
The brain consists of 4 lobes, all in the cerebrum: the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the temporal lobe, and the occipital lobe.
We did it! Yes.
Us after naming all the lobes correctly.
Did you? Okay, we had
A little peek behind the
Yeah.
curtain.
we had a scrapped first episode, and I could not for the life of me pronounce occipital. I kept saying,
It probably took 20 minutes.
but because I kept thinking it was
Okay,
occupational lobe.
It could be.
I mean, who knows?
The temporal lobe gave you a hard time as well.
I'm like, tempura shrimp? The tempura lobe? Sushi.
Okay, whatever.
Okay. The frontal lobe is the largest lobe. It is responsible for intellect, movement throughout the body, holding our memories, our unique personality, and the ability to reason and concentrate. A special part of the frontal lobe is Broca's area, which allows us to form sentences, speak, and comprehend other forms of speech and conversation.
Yeah, so basically, without the frontal lobe, we just wouldn't be able to talk to each other. We'd be like this.
Yeah. We'd just be like, which, are we like that anyway?
Yes,
a little bit.
a little.
For the audio listeners, we're just kind of sitting, like, staring at the camera, kind of.
Mouth open, Napoleon Dynamite.
Stop making fun of him!
I think Napoleon Dynamite's frontal lobe was a smidge damaged.
He's
But that's
not
okay.
fully developed yet, because I think it develops fully when you're 20
When you're in your
mid-20s.
mid-20s.
Well, Broca's area is just a tiny little part.
Yes, but Napoleon has to have the massivest brain I've ever seen.
That's why his hair is so big.
gene. It's full of secrets.
Yeah, without our frontal lobe, we wouldn't be able to talk to anyone. We wouldn't be able to process anything.
Which we yap
That's
a
what-
lot.
We yap a lot.
yap a ton. Without
Yeah.
that, we'd be like,
Without our frontal lobe, our lives would be so sad and miserable. Also, we wouldn't even be able to process sadness and miserableness.
miserableness.
So when you think about it,
We
the
give
frontal
all of our
lobe's
things.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
Kind of the biggest thing it does is, like, the decision making. So that's kind of why a lot of the laws around, like, drinking and, like, all the other stuff you can do around
Like
18 or 21.
substances, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why those laws exist, because you're not fully equipped to make that decision
Yeah.
before it's fully developed. And it fully develops at 25.
But
Mid-20s.
they're cutting you a little slack.
Yeah, they're like,
good.
it's close enough.
They're being a little sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. The parietal lobe is in the middle area of the brain. It is divided from the frontal lobe through the central sulcus, located right behind the frontal lobe. It is responsible for processing our senses, recognition, and perception.
It's kind of cool,
Like
like,
critical thinking.
you know how, like, everyone, like, compares the seasons to, like, certain, like, scents and stuff like that? Without the parietal lobe, we wouldn't have that, because I always, you know, when I think of fall, I think of course, like, fall has a distinct smell. It's kind of, like, a little wet smelling. The leaves, you can tell, they're almost done for a little bit. But you can always kind of, and especially with other key moments in your life, like, you can, like, have a memory from your childhood that you get reminded of by certain smells. And the only reason you do that is from your parietal lobe. The temporal lobe is separated from the other lobes through the sylvian fissure. It is used for memory, speech, and auditory perception. So that's also, like, you know, how you hear people, how far away they are from you, and stuff like that.
The occipital lobe is in the back of the brain and is used for visual processing.
Yeah. Also, yeah, people think that you see through your eyes, but the only reason you're able to relay any information is because of your brain. Like, your eye is kind of just...
Your eyes are taking
Like
it
the
in,
gateway,
but your
yeah.
brain is able to process what that
brain.
means.
So
and then
basically-
is able to use it.
The main gist of the brain is that you would be like, you wouldn't be able to think, you'd be able to see, you couldn't smell if you didn't have a brain.
You
Or if
could move.
Yeah, you
Pretty
wouldn't
much.
be able to move.
Yeah,
You're-
so you'd be...
you wouldn't be able to do absolutely anything. Okay. The brain is sort of like Microsoft for our world. When Microsoft broke for like an hour, the whole world had to shut down, pretty much.
That's it. That's actually a really great comparison, I think. What's the word I'm thinking of where, like, you need it? It's just necessary.
It's a need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Vital?
Vital's a good word, yeah.
Yeah, so the brain is the head of our movements. It controls something even as small as a twitch in the finger. It controls every single organ in our body, and it ensures that they're all doing their proper job to keep the body healthy.
Our brain elucidates our senses like sight, touch, smell, taste, hearing, and in return allows us to have reactions to those senses. It's how we feel pain, both physically and mentally, and it works to manage the pain in each situation.
Those senses can even allow us to have certain emotions and memories tied to them, which are relayed in the brain. It also allows us to experience the vast array of emotions and reactions, like fear, anger, sadness, anxiety, and happiness.
Inside Out promo.
Inside Out reference,
Inside Out?
kind of.
So basically, Inside Out it got the emotions right. There is not a headquarters in your brain where they live.
That'd be pretty cool.
It would be pretty cool.
Who would I be? Who would I be most prevalently?
Like disgust.
Yeah, I can see
What
that.
about for me?
I think you'd be Joey. You're happy. Sorry for slurring that. You're pretty happy.
Joy.
Eliza Rock.
To the world.
Yeah, Marleigh would be Joey, and I think Rachael might be Fear.
Fear.
I was thinking anxiety.
Yeah,
I
you
forgot
go.
anxiety was a thing.
Yeah,
It's a new one.
Well, I just think
it's my hawk, so
Well,
I'll take that.
Rachael is very cognizant when she's making her decisions. Like, she thinks of every single route.
True.
And I feel like the only reason I think she's Fear is because I feel like Fear, like, calculates what the result is going to be in every situation, you know, and kind of plans accordingly to that.
Yeah,
But the
that's
thing
only-
with Fear and Inside Out, at least, Fear just kind of doesn't think things
No,
through.
he's
He
just scared
panics.
all the
Okay.
time.
But
Yeah.
anxiety is the one that thinks it
every
through.
situation, yeah.
And then picks the right one. We haven't seen Inside
We
Out.
haven't
I
seen
have
the
seen
second
it.
one.
I have
We
seen
haven't.
it.
She saw it without us. All right. Our brain is what makes us all unique. It allows us to have a personality. And it allows us to react to the world around us given each situation. Obviously, we have very unique personalities.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I
we're
feel
a lot
like
to handle.
Well, I feel like we're
Too hot to
us
handle.
three together are probably just like we're like the same text but very different fonts. Marleigh and I are more similar than Rachael. We kind
Well.
of well no,
Sorry.
in all honesty, I think Rachel's a little more mature than us, which
True.
is
Yeah.
surprising since
Mature and
I'm almost
smarter.
18. Yeah. So that's why Marleigh and I are more similar. We have to deal with the same situations all the time since we're constantly around each other. Should we tell them our work story or are we going to get fired for that?
Maybe
You might
let's
get
not share
fired,
it.
yeah.
But there was one day where Ciara and I hung out for 17 hours straight.
And we were fine.
We were having a ball.
Yeah, usually my social battery is gone after, I'd say, 3 hours max.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my limit. But
we made 17.
we share the same neurons,
Yeah.
and we're always on the same wavelength, so you can't really get tired of yourself.
True.
So how
True.
in order to feel and actually be present in the world around you, you would have to use every single part of your brain. Like, they're all vital for your experience on this earth. Is that emotional?
I was gonna say, because every living animal has a brain, and I think it's interesting to see that the human brain is one of the most complicated ones, and it's kind of the reason that this whole thing right now exists.
Yeah, that's why Inside Out exists. It's because we have very complex
I know,
brains.
it's very meta.
It's very weird to think about how
Meta AI?
Stop.
how
100% chance.
because we have such complex brains. Like a show like Young Sheldon was thought up in someone's head
Yeah.
and was made.
Could you just imagine if our brains were even probably as complex, let's say, as like a chimpanzee or something? We would have none of this. We wouldn't have
Yeah.
houses. We wouldn't have anything to be able, like, adequate shelter or anything that would be able to support ourselves.
Yeah, like the monkeys right now, aren't they in like the Bronze Age?
I don't know.
Ooh.
I thought I read something
I don't know,
somewhere
but, like,
that they're
orcas-
in like the Bronze Age
This-
compared to
that
like
makes
human
sense,
advancement.
yes.
But I know that, like, orcas and dolphins, one of the reasons that they're so smart is
Yeah.
because their brains are, like, more wrinkly so that they can
So they have
hold
more sulci and gyri.
Right, but they're able to, like, they have a lot of similarities between humans, and their brains are so similar to ours, and yet they're still different, which is
Yeah.
why that
It's definitely...
we're here
Yeah.
and they're there. You
It's
know?
really cool to see how each, like, I guess, organism has its own way of equipping, you know, its control system, its brain, its nervous system to itself to make sure that they're in the best possible situation that they can be. Like, at the end of the day, they have the most, you know, intelligence to, you know, be suited for the ocean. But for us, we have the most intelligence
Yeah,
we can do
dolphins.
in the ocean, we can do on land, in the desert, in space. We're just much more complex.
Yeah, sorry guys, I misspoke. Monkeys have just entered their own Stone Age.
Wow. Give a round of applause for the monkeys. We hope to see you guys here joining us on the podcast one day.
Once you get to the Bronze Age, we'll call you up here.
We'll talk. A couple 20,000 years.
Let us know. Call us.
Yeah, but now monkeys are using different instruments to process their food.
Oh, I saw a video of monkeys are I saw a video of a chimpanzee, and it's they had to tap all the numbers, but they only got to see them for a second, and they were rewarded with treats and fruits and stuff. And monkeys were beating most human beings at that game. Human beings couldn't remember 1 through 20 on the screen, and every time the monkeys passed it.
Yeah, or
so maybe we're
Whoa! I think the brain rot is really getting to us.
Oh my gosh, I've been noticing that. I'll be just now, I'll just forget everything that I've ever wanted to say ever.
I think monkeys are going to take over. Planet of the Apes IRL.
I hate Planet of the Apes. The CGI freaks me out. I can't deal with it.
I've never seen it.
I haven't seen it. I just see the ads every time I go to the movies, and I'm could you imagine if monkeys were taking over and killing us all?
Hey, they've started to learn sign language. That kind of freaks me out.
They're a step ahead of me.
Bringing it all back.
Your brain controls every single thing you do.
Yeah. And even if you're not thinking that you're doing it, your
brain's 2 steps ahead of you.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think this is the part of the episode 1 where we bid farewell.
We have to say goodbye.
Well, we love you and we miss you. And follow us on our TikTok, which is at My Head Hurts Podcast. Our Instagram is at My Head Hurts Podcast. Make sure you like every single one of our posts and repost on TikTok and post on your story of our Instagrams, please, so we can get more clout.
Make sure to like and subscribe down below and turn on push notifications.
Boom.
Boop.
Make sure to rate 5 stars on Spotify and listen to all the episodes. And
that's all we have for today.
We'll be back.
Thank you for listening to episode 1, an introduction to us and the brain.
Bye.
Bye. Our frontal lobe just came up with that and told you that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank your frontal lobe once in a while.
Mm-hmm. They do so much. They do so much for you, and you're ungrateful.
Advidasen. Tschüss.
Oh, I made a mistake. Rachel teaches us words in German that we abuse.
Wasser?
Oder
Wein.
Let us know what you want.
Let us know.
Let us know.
Comment down in the comments below.
Disclaimer. This podcast is made for educational purposes only. The research stated in this podcast was simply sourced by the host of My Head Hurts. Nothing stated was derived for the purpose of copyright, and we do not claim to own or have created anything stated. All rights remain to their discoverers and sources, which are listed in the description and on the source page of each episode.